I can still hear the song playing in my head. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to this live segment today. We're very happy to have you here. We look forward to Sundays and chatting with you guys and just telling you what we know and just giving you some feedback on what we have over here so that when you come here, you will be warriors, you will be confident, you'll be courageous. By the way, Onyi, did you listen to that voice note today? I was blown away.
Yeah. He made the whole effort worth the while, honestly.
This is a shout out to Sadiq Olayemi. Woo! Sadiq, you've made our Sunday. You can see
Yes,
both of us are tired. Look, let me tell you, we've had a very busy weekend. Oh, he has
honestly.
been busy. I've been busy. Mom is still busy, as you can see. She's not with us, but we will be having some makeup sessions. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Oye, what are we
yeah.
discussing today? What's that
Class-
thing that
Classroom
frightens
management.
everybody?
Classroom management. Ah, classroom management is not a big of an ish back home because of
No,
how respectful kids are, right? Because
people
of the
just
culture.
go. People
Yes,
just
until
go
you
to
get
class
here
and
and
do their thing.
it hits you that classroom management is actually a thing.
This is why we keep saying that the culture plays a large part in what happens inside a school.
Exactly,
When you go
exactly.
to a culture where parenting style is permissive and laissez-faire, and
Yeah,
what goes
yeah.
can go.
Go.
When you go to a school where your mother dares not hear that you said, what did you say to your teacher? What?
Yeah, yeah.
Misho, let's go.
In fact, when
And
your teacher mentions, I'll tell your mom, you know, your brain will reset.
quick,
Your
quick.
brain will reset quickly.
So
But
then
when,
what
but
happened?
when you're the one controlling your mom at home, then it becomes an issue.
Exactly. That is the word. When you are the one controlling your mom at home. Do you know how many times I've gone into shops here? I don't know whether it's the same in the UK. You see, in Spain, they still have something they call venguenza. If you
Hmm.
speak
I
Spanish,
like the sound of that.
buzz
When,
me in the comment section if you speak Spanish. When they see the child sing venguenza, hey, the
when,
whole neighborhood will say, that means you have no shame. But then if I say it in English, you have no shame. It doesn't
hmm.
give the weight of it.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know in Yoruba, when you say ojo tie,
Yeah.
or in Hausa they'll say baka da kunya ne, baka da kunya, me ke damun ka, ina harbe ka wurin, you know. I'm speaking my Hausa, and in fact, I need to stop before I go from Spanish to French to Hausa to Yoruba.
Oh dear.
Welcome, everybody. Sadiq is saying, where is Omowumi? Sadiq, we've just talked about you. You need to play back and listen to this. We've just given you the biggest woo, woo, woo. We loved your voice message. And as you can see, even though we're tired, we're here. We're like, let's shine. Even if it's not for
And
anything,
let's do it again for Sadiq.
just for Sadiq. We're here shining. We're like, we're shining just for you, Sadiq. Thank you very much for that voice message. And I had to bring it up today on this live session so that you will know that we're impressed and we're happy and we're grateful that you are finding value in what we do.
Exactly.
Today, we're talking about behavior management. And we've already started it by talking about how culture plays into what you see in the classroom. Eh, in Nigeria, children do not disrespect their parents. They do not. In fact, if you do, you know how many memes there are of Nigerian parents?
I watched one on Facebook. So this girl tells her mom that the teacher wants to see her, and the mom goes, "What have you done that the teacher wants to see me? Eh?
Yes,
What have you done?"
that's
And
Celia.
then
Celia.
the teacher comes by the window. The mom is all dressed up, pushed up, speaking her,
Yes. That's Celia talks.
and they tell her that she got 98% and she's invited for an award. She goes, "Oh,
Yes,
definitely, I'll be
yes. Then
there."
she changed
And when
immediately.
she
She
got
code
she changed
switched.
the video like that. What happened to the other 2%? Eh? What happened to the other 2%? You're scoring 98%.
Oh my
You're not scoring 100%. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a typical Nigerian mom.
Celia, you see, I keep telling you that you are making waves. I know you are watching this, Celia, or maybe you watch it later. So please see how much we're boosting you here. If you guys don't know Celia Talk, she has a YouTube channel, she has an Instagram channel. She's my very good friend. Please go and like her channel, give her a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe, everything, because she's just amazing. And at some point, you'll be seeing her on this channel later on as we go on. Now, you remember when you and I did the when we did our video, when we did our recording, and we talked about how children can call a teacher a monkey, go back to Africa. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know, after we recorded that, I
I was,
went
yeah, I was so struck up in the class by a student. A year
after
four.
I In fact, after we recorded that, I went back and sat down and I thought about it. I'm like, we did not do it justice.
Yeah.
They say a lot more, they do a lot more. And thank God we have this opportunity today to talk about behavior management. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear behavior management?
Okay. First thing that comes to my mind is first week of school. That's the first thing that comes to my mind because I feel like it's best to start early.
Yes,
I teach younger kids. So that first
yes,
week, we're going through routines, we're going through procedures, and I'm not just throwing instructions at them. So I usually like to
exactly.
do a classroom chatter. So we all gather around and we talk about what we expect, how we want to be safe, how we want to feel safe and look forward to coming to school every day. So, what's the
Yeah,
expectation for the classroom? What's the expectation for the hallway? What's the expectation for the playground? We cover different aspects. I never assume that kids should know what to do, right? Because
exactly.
some of them have never been to school, some of them have been to school, but in a different place. See how we talked about culture and how
Yes,
culture differs. So
yes,
maybe some of them are coming from schools where all these things, classroom management wasn't a big deal. So
yeah,
I saw that first day of school, get into it, create those expectations, kids are a part of it before anything even gets started. So then I can always refer to that
exactly.
classroom charter. Remember, we did this together. I wasn't the one who made the rules. You guys made the rules, right? So
Exactly,
you're
exactly,
bound to obey those
exactly,
rules. So whenever I think of classroom management, what comes to my mind is first day,
exactly.
first week of school.
As an international teacher, one of the reasons why uh, I I won't say I don't like to work in maybe places like the UK and the US is because I feel there's more of a challenge there. I can work there. It's just that the behavior management in those countries is different because of the culture. The children know their rights. Have they quoted rights for you before? You
Yeah,
teach younger
yeah.
children.
I teach younger children, but yes, the ones in key stage two, yes,
Okay. Key
we
stage
quote
two.
right for you.
No,
Yeah,
those ones,
we
they are
quote
babana.
right for you. They'll tell you what you should and what you shouldn't be doing. Should you be doing this?
Yeah,
Right? And which is if you don't know, if you haven't read the policies, you don't know the way the system operates, in fact, you can get intimidated because these kids are very confident, right? So when they throw out those things, you might begin to think that you're actually doing something wrong.
yes,
That's why you need to understand the system, understand the expectation for you as a teacher, so that when they give it to you, you're able to like give it back, right? And then they
yes,
know that you know what you're doing, basically. So
exactly.
yes,
But
we challenge.
do you give it to them hot, hot? I don't
It
give it to them hot,
depends.
hot.
It depends. So there
Tell
was
me.
a day. Hot can be in a very subtle way. You can be giving someone pepper, but
No,
just
no,
give.
you're a Nigerian. Do you give them hot, hot Nigerian style? Let me
No,
ask.
no, no, no. You have to. You should be smiling and because I remember there was a day I had to go cover in a secondary school, right?
Yeah,
And I was teaching, and this girl walks into the room. Of course, she was coming to distract, like cat walking into the room, talking,
exactly.
talking to someone when I'm right there in front of the class talking. And then she goes, she's trying, when I look at her, she goes, trying to tell me that, oh, that student did something wrong. And I turned to her and I'm like, I think you should worry about yourself and let me bother about that student. Thank you. And then she just got the message. Like I was passing a message, please get out of my class and mind your
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
but I have to do it in a very subtle way. Go bother about yourself and let me bother about that kid. Because I mean, it's my job to bother about the kid, not yours. And then she got it and she walked away. So I didn't have to say anything else. That was enough to let her know that no, no, thank you. And she walked out. So yeah, you have to be, you know how we talked about last week, when
Balance.
you don't say things as they are, you
Yes.
have to be, diplomatic when talking so that your instruction is not being misunderstood. Yes.
Exactly. Secondary. Unfortunately, guys, my mom is not here today. She's here, but she cannot be here with us on the live, but she might be popping in or might have a surprise later down the line. She's secondary. I've done secondary for a little bit, so I'm going to talk about secondary because all you can talk about early years and primary. I'm going to talk about secondary. Secondary students, sometimes you give them the rules, they will still not follow it. You know why? They are in those years, those teenage years where they feel they know everything. They are too cool for school. And if even if you quote law from now till next year, they don't they don't even. So in my opinion, with those children, you set the rule as Oye has said. But then you have to remember what you were like when you were that age. If a teacher comes down on you like a dragon, you will give her fire too. Especially children who know. Do you know some of them they can quote the UN rights of the child from A to Z?
That's all.
Homework for anyone watching this. Do you know the UN rights of the child? Because it's from the UN rights of the child that they created all those rules that we use in the classroom and it feeds into the behavior management. So as you can see, Oye has said, they know their rules, they can quote it to you. So the best thing for you to do to combat it is go know it yourself so that if they quote A, you quote B. If somebody tells you that the kingdom of God suffer violence, you say yes, but the meek shall inherit the earth. See, it's fire. You are doing it in a nice way, is chatter, and you respect them. There's something I find about teachers. Some teachers they feel they have to be a dragon all the time in the classroom. I
Mm.
feel with the secondary children, you secondary students, let me not call them children, because one told me which day was I we're not children anymore, miss. I'm like, oh, sorry, but you see, I quickly said sorry, and then I went into the conversation. Those kind of relationships is what you should have with the children, because some of these children are coming from homes where their parents give them negative attention. Their parents don't talk to them. They don't do. Do you know? Someone said, "What country are we teaching in?" Sheikh Salman. I teach in Spain at the moment, but if you check on my channel, you'll find out that I've taught in 9 different countries. I've done Australia, the US, Venezuela, the UK, Norway, Netherlands, Spain, Myanmar,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've also taught in my home country for a little bit. I was not teaching in my home country. That was it. I was in management, so I didn't really get into the nitty gritty of it, and it really pains me because I really wanted to teach to see what it was like. So yes, Shaik. Yes, that's what I did. So today I'm covering as many countries as I can as the international school teacher, and Oyin is the American trained teacher, but she works in the UK because she converted her American certification to British certification. You might want to have a look on her channel. She's got a lot of roots into teaching on her channel. Mommy has got some as well. She's not here today, but if you stick around with us, like and subscribe, you will see what she's got. And thank you for coming. Right. So I think that relationship, building that relationship with them. For example, people always talk about behavior management as if the children come into school meaning to do horrible things. But some of them, do you find that in your experience, some teachers come into this is my experience. Some teachers come into the staff room and they're talking about let me use myself, Janet. Janet showed me paper in the class today. And then another teacher says, yes, I taught her last year. Then chronicles everything I did last year. Doesn't talk about anything good I did, just talks about everything horrible that I did. Then another teacher comes and says, yes, I taught her 2 years ago. And at the end of the conversation, the only thing that teacher, that new teacher who is working with Janet, goes away from the staff room with is Janet is a nail, and I'm going to hammer her down to the ground. So even when the child is being misunderstood, come on, everybody deserves a second chance. Even when the
Yeah.
child is being misunderstood and has now turned a new leaf, the bad,
Yeah.
bad
Impression of that child is being
it,
carried
it
on.
keeps going on. It
Yeah.
just goes on and on. It's like what we said 2 sessions ago, that if one black person or one non-native person does something in the classroom, they just every non-native person that comes in is suddenly seen that way. They're not given the chance to prove themselves. They're not given the chance to show what they can do. So it's the same thing. It happens to the children in the classroom. And one of the things that I would want everyone to be mindful of is, when you go into the classroom, build a relationship with that child. Because when you build a relationship with that child, hard as it might be, because when you want to build a relationship with that child, the child is used to being rejected. So when you build a relationship with that child, then they start to see you as, I don't want to hurt this person. I don't want to let this person down. Some of the children will tell me, oh, miss, I'm sorry, I let you down. I did that. Because they finally understand, for you, I will be different. But for you, you see all those other ones, they don't give me a chance. So I'm not going to give them a chance. And I just hope that everybody starts to open their minds and look at students that way. Don't don't look at them with through the eyes of a past teacher. Some teachers are not patient. Some teachers don't even want to hear. As soon as you talk, whoop, they've jumped on you. And it happens to a lot of immigrant children in the UK, unfortunately, because they're coming from a different system. And the system they're coming from, respect is something that if teacher is talking, you keep quiet, you look at the ground. Now here, when you talk to someone, you make eye contact. So to this person, that child is not even looking at me. I'm talking to you, you're not even looking at me. Are you even listening? So that person, the teacher sees it as, oh, this child is misbehaving. But you see, in a different culture, that child is being perfect. So one of the things that you need to do when you go into the classroom, and this is where diversity comes in, open your mind and see each child as a slate, a clean slate. Let the child prove you wrong. Start it with rules of engagement. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. This is how we're going to behave. This is why we need to behave that way. And then from there, each child starts to show you who they really are. I feel it goes a long way. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I agree. Building relationship is actually a big thing, not just in high school or
Yeah,
for older kids, but even for the little ones as well. Because if they don't feel comfortable with you, they're not comfortable in the environment,
yeah,
learning cannot take place. And
no,
then they're going to be sending that feedback home because although they cannot talk, they will maybe cry every morning
yeah.
when they are being brought to school. So that's
To
a sign
school.
that they're not happy in the environment. And that begins to question your, credence as a teacher. And then you also
Exactly.
talk a bit about differentiation because people always think that differentiation is all about differentiating instruction. There are different processes. You can differentiate the process, you can differentiate the environment. Now, when you're understanding that each child is an individual and you're beginning to try to build trust with that child, you see that there are certain things that is a particular child might do because you have a different expectation for them based on where they are in terms of behavior. Not like you will not give feedback, but to be a bit not too firm with that child because you understand that child as an individual. So your feedback for those that child's behavior is going to be tailored to them. I
Exactly.
remember taking a walk to Sunday, and I had this parent. She had a child in the class, and then she had another one walking. And she was on the phone. She was cursing. She was yelling, screaming, crying. Oh my goodness! And I could just imagine what was going through the head of the little one she had. So this girl was about 5 years. First of all, she was already running late for school. And I
Yeah.
can only imagine what had happened at home before they came out. And then this is the morning, like she's going to school this morning, and imagine seeing her mom on the phone like that. there are two things. Is either she gets to school and she shuts down,
Yeah,
or she begins to display, certain behavior that you might just feel, oh, this child is so this or so that, not knowing that things have happened. And that's
at home.
what she's displaying is just a reflection of
What's
what she's
happened? Yeah,
going through. So with kids, it's not just, I know back home you always feel like, oh, it's like you're a lord in the classroom. You talk and
exactly.
everybody listen, but it's different here.
It's
You have to step down, to the children's level. You are a teacher, you model behavior. So if
yes,
you want something wrong, you apologize, because you expect your kids to apologize when they do something wrong. So that's they are treated like human beings that have rights. You should understand them like human beings and find a way to
exactly,
get through to them, because their success is your success. That's the way education is seen here. If you're a successful teacher, it's because your students are successful. And for them to be successful, the learning environment has to be comfortable enough for learning to begin to take place. So
exactly.
that's a big thing, like, for classroom management here.
Wow, you just touched on so many points. But before we come back to you, hello, Gideon. Oh my
Hello,
God.
good evening. I'm so sorry for coming here a bit late. I've got so many engagements, so my sincere apologies, please.
I
No
know
worries.
we were told
Yeah,
that it's going to be a tight one for a tight.
yeah,
The timing is going to be tight for you, but we're
yeah.
so
The
happy.
itinerary is so fixed, and I just had to, had
Yeah,
to find out time to be able to, meet the intellectual contemporaries online to be able to discuss
exactly.
with them.
I like
Yeah.
No
that.
pasa nada, tranquilo. I'm speaking Spanish to you now, so
Wow.
it's okay. You can relax. We're just
Okay.
happy that you are here, and
Wow.
you are here to share your knowledge. So that's the main thing. That in
Oh.
fact, yes,
Oh.
please.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I've watched two videos. Two videos.
Oh. Come on. Come,
There you go. I'm sharing
come
one of
on.
the biggest ones.
Come,
You and I. We need to
come on.
Tomando Cafe, and we will
I don't think
discuss.
I understand all of that, but anyways, thank
Don't
you
mind
for
me.
the
I like the sound of
compliment.
it anyways. It sounds
I
good.
speak I
Yeah.
speak certain languages. So
Ah.
my language is such now that I throw in anyone that I feel this one will
Wow.
describe what I feel.
That's why I
You guys,
said at the onset that I'm speaking to intellectual contemporaries, so I wouldn't expect anything less. So I believe I'm here to just learn a lot and gain from my orgas, just like Nigerians will say. But
see over
thank you
here,
for the privilege.
you know how we do it in the diaspora. There's no guy here. We are
Yeah.
all look, everybody. Oyin is the American trained teacher. I'm the international
Ah.
adjunct teacher. Oma Ome is not
Mm,
here, but she's here. I can see that
okay.
she's listening. She's texting me and telling me, well done, guys." And she's even there. She's screaming. She's in the
Wow.
comment section.
Wow.
Mommy, are you
Wow.
concentrating on what you should be doing? Anyway,
Wow.
we're so happy to have you here today.
Thanks
It's
so
really an
much.
honor to have you here.
It's
So,
such a privilege on my part to be here too. Thank you very much.
oh, thank
I
you.
really
And
appreciate it.
everybody has been asking for a permanent. See, Oyin is even showing it to you.
Ah, thank you.
They've been asking for a permanent teacher
Okay.
for secondary. See, I
Oh,
teach secondary once in a while, but that's when I need to cover for a colleague of mine or something. I'm a
okay.
primary trained teacher and I work
Oh,
internationally. Oyin
okay.
is primary and early years, but majority of her experience is in the early years. So she's our early years guru.
Okay.
Mommy
Okay.
is secondary, but she's a supply. So you being
Okay.
permanent just gives us that rounded panel that we need to give people. So guys, start throwing your comments in the comment section. Permanent teacher is here for your viewing pleasure. Take advantage of him. Right,
Okay.
Gideon,
Yeah.
give us your take on behavior management. That's what we've been talking about. We
Okay.
we we've mainly talked about how you need to build a relationship with the student. You need to set your rules from the beginning so that if
Okay.
they don't know what your rules are, they don't know what they're breaking. So you just shouting at them,
Definitely.
it's not going to be constructive in the end. You end up going home with a headache. So you give us your take on behavior management, being that you're secondary. I tried to cover the
Okay.
secondary just a little bit, but I left. I made sure I
Okay.
didn't say too much because I knew you were coming.
Okay. To start with, I would like to say thank you for the opportunity again, and to everyone watching, thanks for having me here. Now, as regards behavior management, I believe to every classroom you'll be teaching, there are different teaching methods and different behavior management you'll be using for different lessons you've got. Just like the conversation I meant while I came in, I met our senior colleague, Mrs. Oyi. Is it Onyi? Or I'm sorry if I don't know how to pronounce that properly.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Onyi,
yes.
okay. Okay, she was talking about, being able to apologize to students when you're wrong, because each student had got different background issues, different family culture, different brought ups, which is not their fault outrightly. And you have to be able to manage them irrespective of their backgrounds, cultures, and their
Yes.
abilities. So, for me, and for every school I've worked, the first thing I request for before going into any lesson is a class on a page. A class on a
Yes.
page. And for a class on a page, I want to have an idea of how many students with learning disabilities am I going to be meeting with in that particular classroom.
Yes.
Because sometimes you might, while I was still working as a supply, you can be posted to any school, any classroom you have no idea about, and the best way I think to communicate and interact with them at that point is to read through their pedigree, antecedents, and their record to be able to know how to move forward with them. She was
Exactly.
talking about relationship, but on my side, I think you build relationship with students you see on a day-to-day basis. If you're a permanent teacher in a school, it will be easier for you to build relationship. But talking from being a supply teacher experience now, before I relate it to being a permanent teacher. So,
Yeah.
being a supply teacher, the first thing I request for, just like I said the other time, is the class on the page, to know how many students with learning disabilities I've got, and then to know the same plan, because I believe the same plan must be orchestrated in such a way that it must suit all learners' ability
Exactly.
and to suit their
Yeah.
needs. So if I can read through, we've got different learning disabilities with different
Exactly.
approach and support methods. So you're supporting, you're teaching, and you're trying to model a particular lesson to these students who haven't seen you before, who doesn't know who you really are. So getting the class on the page will give me an idea, and then ways by which other teachers have taught them and they've been supported in learning outrightly. For example, I taught in a school where I was taken to as a supply teacher, and I read on a class on the page, I read that a particular student, if you do not engage in a normal and a proper conversation, this particular student wouldn't listen to you.
No.
So while I got into that class, the first thing I did is to pick out some of those students who needed conversations to build trust in that teacher before they will be able to listen, to assimilate whatever you will teach them. And then when I saw those students, the first thing I did is to first of all discuss football. So the first question I asked them, "Hiya, what team do you support?" And then one of them told me Manchester United, and I said, "Rubbish club, rubbish." And then they asked me, "Sir, what team do you support?" And I told them Chelsea. And then they said, "Oh, rubbish," things like that. And then
Yes.
that's just to gain an entrance into their being. I want to gain an entrance into their being for them to say, okay, this is someone we can trust, this is someone we can relate with, and this is someone we can, believe can teach us and will be ready to listen. Because most times,
Exactly.
before you even get to some classrooms, some schools, their teachers would have told you, come on,
So
the
many
classroom you're
things.
going, the classroom you're going is rubbish. I hope the students will listen to you. And sometimes when I'm done with the class, they were always amazed, surprised, and
Yeah.
astonished that I could bring out good results, exquisite results from that classes. So
Exactly.
sometimes when I get there, after reading the class on the page details, I engage the students according to their support needs. Some students, they don't want you to ask them questions. They don't, because they are shy. Some has got anxiety. When they see new
Yeah.
teacher, they get anxious. You get what I'm trying to say? It's normal. It's not something so weird. It's a normal thing. So Some students, when they seeing you as a black teacher is intimidating to them. They have never related with any black teacher before. So the first thing you need to do is to bring out their support methods, integrate it into your learning and your teaching, and that will bring out the excellent result you desire, the desired result from that particular classroom, and then you work out fine in that particular school, even as a supply teacher. So sometimes I've been posted to some schools where I will be asked to stay in drama lessons. I don't know anything about drama. I'm a science teacher, but the first thing I need to do is to know what particular students am I working with. One of the problems we have as teachers is people want to just get into the classroom without doing the background check. There's a part of doing the background check anywhere you work. Even if it is not in teaching profession, you must carry out your background check to know what kind of things my clients, because your students at that time are your clients. What do they need? How do I suit their learning needs? So sometimes when I get there, they don't need you to don't ask them any question. They just want you to talk. They want you to see that you can support them by not putting pressure and burden on them, being a student in that class. So you don't need to force things out. Some teachers want every student to respond to whatever they are teaching at a particular period, which will not work. But one of the ways you can know each student's need is by relating back to their record and antecedent, in which the school had already prepared. Some has got different learning. Some wouldn't stop talking. You get what I'm trying to say? For example, a student who has got ADHD wouldn't stop talking.
He can't.
And then one of the things such students is looking for is they are looking for your attention. So they need your attention. So if you're trying to tell them to keep quiet, you're just trying to disrupt your lesson. So there's a way by which you can go around it and create a particular scenario and horror, an environment for those students, for all of them to work together. We have a student with ADHD that won't stop talking. We have one that's got a disability. He doesn't want to listen to noise. I've been in a class where we've got students who keep shouting, and I have students who couldn't, take all this. And I had to balance this group set of students to make sure I have an effective teaching. And the best way I could do this is I gave the ADHD, the ones who wouldn't stop talking, the utmost attention they need, and then creating a boundary. You get what I'm trying to say? And that was why, while I was on video with Amowumi, I was telling her there's something we call teaching pedagogy and teaching philosophy. While I was reading the comments through the video, people were thinking it is the same thing. No, it is different. It is clearly different. So if you don't understand these things, it will be as if you do not know what you're doing. Meanwhile, you've got the subject knowledge, you are intellectually sound, but you don't know the how and when, to impute some things. You get what I'm trying to say? So being in such classes, I was able to manage the two set of students. This one, the quiet ones could learn, the outspoken one could also learn. And bringing both of them together, the ones that won't talk, formative assessment, maybe through their mini whiteboards, because they wouldn't talk. I wouldn't want to ask them questions. But using the formative assessment to be able to know whether they've gotten what I'm teaching right, could tell me, okay, these ones have gotten it right without talking. And the ones that would talk, okay, I could use, cold calling, I could use class voting, and they can, just to manage the behavior. That's for the supply. And then for permanent, I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time. Just let me know if I'm okay. So
they wanted a permanent teacher. They're getting a permanent teacher. So yes, please go on.
Okay, now I want to move to the permanent role. Now, I think some schools will tell you during your induction that one of the best way to relate with your students is to let them know your standard from the beginning of your job. Yes. So from the first class, let them know your standard. To me, I don't think that works.
Really? Tell me why.
Good. Now, my own method.
Primary.
That might be primary because they are still young. Yes. Some kids, if you show to them you're strict, they will show to you they are not friendly too.
I said it before you came on. I said, I don't know too much about secondary, but for what I know about secondary, I'm going to give you. And I said, you don't come down hard on them. It doesn't work. So
if you come high, they will want to prove to you you are coming to our territory and you can't colonize us here.
No.
So one of the things I've deduced from my different experience, I wouldn't want to say vast experiences when I have people like you would have thought for donkey of years,
What's
just to
that?
say from my little experiences is that there's a code I brought out from my classroom management for permanent teaching, and it is called warm street. Warm street. Your first time of meeting them, be warm.
Yes.
Let them know who you are, discuss with them. In fact, my first lesson, the first 30 minutes is being warm. I'm not doing science. I want to know you
Getting to know
guys.
them.
You get what I'm trying to say? Some of
Yes.
them, I want to ask, what do you do? They ask me, what do you do, sir? What football team do you support? How do you like to dress?
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm trying to build that relationship at first. Because if I wouldn't build that relationship, you wouldn't know how some students really behave, despite the fact that
Exactly.
you've read their details on the class on a page. That's
Exactly.
why behavior evolve over the time.
Ah, yes.
Students can change behavior. So the support method you think you've got for them when they were in year 7 might have changed in year 9, and the school have not updated it yet. So if you are
Yes.
using the same support method they've got for year 7 and year 9, you might be getting it all wrong.
Exactly.
So let me give you an instance. There was a school I worked, and I was teaching the year 11s, and a lot of teachers had come to me to tell me, Gideon, you will struggle with this class
Why do teachers
because
do that? Why
because
do they?
they are struggling with the particular class too. They are struggling with the particular year group.
Failure, actually. That's why I say
Yeah.
that.
So sometimes they are struggling, and when they have you as a new teacher, they are looking for an escape route to, just give you that particular troubling class so they
Yes.
can see if you can be able to cope or not. So the first thing I did after I got there is to ask them, what sport do you like doing? Some of them told me, the ladies told me they love gymnastics. Some of them told me they love football. This one told me they love this. And then I gathered all the sports, all of them, for that particular year group that is
Yeah.
so challenging. And then after school, I booked an appointment with each of them. I'm going to
Yes.
come play tennis with you after school on Monday. For you, I'm coming to play football with your year group on Tuesday. For you, I'm coming to do gymnastics. I don't know how to do gymnastics.
Olamide.
You got
Sorry.
okay.
Yes, please.
You understand? I'm just trying to build relationships such that I'm not trying to look for their favor. I'm not trying to turn them into liking me by force. I'm not trying to lure them to like me. That's not the target. The target is to know their kind of personality. Who are they?
Yes.
So
Yes.
while we are playing the table tennis, we keep talking. How are you? How do you like science? Some of them tell, sir, I don't like science. Okay, why don't you? We still play. While we are playing, why don't you like science? They will tell you my teachers are rubbish. They wouldn't listen to me. From
Yes.
there, I know this one wants someone who listens to her. You get what I'm trying to say? While we are
Yes.
playing football, sometimes for that year group I told you, some of them while we are playing, I tell them, why don't you want to pass to this particular guy? And then I don't like him. I don't.
Yeah.
So he
It's
doesn't want to
rubbish.
sit with him. You get what
Yes.
I'm saying? So sitting
Yeah.
with him in the class, we always produce issues. So getting to know people like that gave me, an edge on controlling their behavior management. So the following week after that particular time, when I had them, the one I've played table tennis with, when that particular student started misbehaving, I could say, Amelia, you remember the conversation we had when we were playing the
Yes.
tennis? You told me you're going to be a good girl. Do you remember? Like, yes,
Yes.
yeah. Can we just go back to what we discussed and just,
Because you
or
built relationship with them.
and then after the relationship, it's now strict. You now build
Yes.
boundary. So they know that they've gained your trust already. They liked you already. They wouldn't want to disappoint you.
At all.
They won't want to disappoint you. That's why till now, if I give any of my students C3, they cry to remove our room.
Yes.
Not
Of course.
because of their
Of the
parents.
remote.
No,
No, it's because of you.
it's because they know they've disappointed me, and that's why after school they will come back to me and say, "Sir, I'm
I'm
really
sorry.
sorry. I
Yes.
wouldn't do that
It's not
again."
about the school. They can do
No,
detention 100
they
hours.
don't care. Some
Because
of them will tell me, Miss, this gave me detention, but I don't care. And
yeah,
I will tell them, you don't need to do that. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
So it's because I've created a particular scenario. I've created an illustration in their mind that I'm not just teaching you science. I'm modeling a pattern for you
To
to
know
follow.
how.
So sometimes when they want to misbehave, because sometimes they can't control it, and I know
Mm.
it's not their fault. I've got a student who told me, sir, I've got 2 weeks to be told whether I'm going to leave this school permanently or I'm not going to leave. And then I told her we can work things out. And the problem she's got is because she wouldn't stop throwing things at teacher. Yeah, while she's learning. And then the best way I believe I could relate to her is, going to her, and I told her, I wouldn't want to call her name online. And I told
No.
her, whenever you want to throw things or you feel like doing anything, just don't raise your hand, just shake your head. I'm going to come to your seat. Whatever you want to throw, just give it to me. You get what I'm trying to say? So
Yes.
it's a warm and strict. Does it mean that she won't throw something at me sometimes? No,
She will
she
still.
will. You
Yeah.
get. So
Yeah.
sometimes she will throw something at me. I'll give her a timeout. We discussed 2 minute timeout, and I told her, you are not this kind of person. You promised me, you promised your mom, you're gonna be a better girl for her, and you're gonna make her proud, and things like that. And we get back into lesson.
Ah,
You know, it's a particular training we must undergo if
exactly.
we want to excel in this particular profession. And another thing I've thought is, sometimes you get to a particular class. I was sharing with someone recently who we work in the same place. He's also an African, and then he told me, he said, "Sir, whenever these students wouldn't stop talking. All of them are talking at once. So I don't know who to give remover. If you give this one room remover, you say, sir, where everyone is talking." And I told him, I said, even if you don't have a relationship with them, there's something I called the silence treatment.
Yes.
There's a silence treatment to keep my class calm.
Exactly.
You get what I'm trying to say? For example, my own kind of school, they have to be in line before they enter the classroom. That
Exactly.
in line, I've spoken to them. I told them the expectation, the standard of what we are to do in the classroom before they get in there. And sometimes, if they are not relating to what I've told them outside before we go into the classroom,
You
for
remind them.
example, I remind them, and then while I'm reminding them, as I start the register, calling the first name, the second name, I keep quiet. And when I keep quiet, they all look at me and look like, what is
What's
happening?
going on?
So when they
Exactly.
see my face, they know I'm waiting for them all to be quiet before
Yes,
the
you're not
lesson
shouting.
continues.
Exactly.
So I'm not telling them, keep quiet. I'm not telling them, you need to be. No. Looking at my face, while all of them are looking at me, some will still be talking. Those that are talking will be telling. Those that are not talking will be pointing at those talking.
Yeah.
Look at
Quiet.
sir,
He wants to
and
say something. Yeah.
everyone gets. So when everyone gets quiet, I don't start the lesson immediately. I speak to them again.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
get.
How would you now say? Oh, sorry. I'm shaking here.
It's all right.
I'm shaking here. How would you then say is the difference between Nigeria, what they do in Nigeria with behavior management? You're laughing. Don't. I'm laughing. You don't laugh. I mean, for
Because
you,
I was being moved to the cross when Omowumi asked this same question on
why?
our
Who made
video,
us cross?
and I was reading some comments and people were saying I'm bringing my country down.
Look,
That's not it.
People don't
you're
like
not
being
bringing,
told.
like I
People
said
don't
on the
like
live
being
last
told.
week, you're
That's
not
it.
bringing the
That's
country
it.
down. We are shedding light on something that needs to be addressed. It's not about
Definitely.
many people need to know the difference between bringing your country down and not bringing your country down. For example, my
Definitely.
last video, I talked about how I got a job in Norway and I lost it because of some time management logistics in my country. Does that mean I brought my country down? No.
No.
I mean, I've told people who are intending to go to Norway, if you're going to go to Norway, this is the problem you're going to meet.
Mm.
So know how to work around it. It's not about bringing the country down, it's about preparing people for what they're going to see and shedding light on a particular issue that we need to address. Now, because I've given you the permission, please let's talk about
Okay.
what
All right.
is it that we can do? What is the difference between what we do back in our home country? It's not
Okay.
only our home country. I worked in Myanmar and they had similar problems.
Oh.
They
Okay.
have similar problems in Southeast Asia. And that's why when you see Southeast Asian children in the UK, for example, or in the US or in Norway or in Switzerland, you find out that they have similar behaviors to African children because the culture that they're coming from is a culture where you respect the teacher no matter what. The teacher is a
Okay.
demigod in the classroom. So you
Okay.
respect the teacher. So we here talking, we're trying to show people who are back in those countries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't think that as a teacher over there, you're going to get the same kind of students here. No, it's different.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
have those
yeah,
students here, there. We have the students here. You have that way over there. We have a different way here. And
yeah.
I can see that some people are saying here, students listen to teachers who are empathetic with them. Correction is easy when trust is built. I really, really like that. Yvonne, thank you so much. So, Gideon, over to you. Tell me, what is the
Okay.
difference that you found out? Because I didn't really teach in Nigeria. That's the thing.
Ah, okay,
So,
okay. I
yeah,
got it now. So, let me start with this. I've been privileged to work in
cool.
different international schools in Nigeria
Right.
because
Okay.
some people were saying last time, maybe because I haven't taught in international schools. They were saying the emphasis on the international. So they thought because let me just say it's because of people's naivety. That's why they could talk that
Yeah, but
way.
people will talk. People will talk. It
Definitely,
doesn't stop you from
definitely.
doing what you want to do.
Yeah,
They will
but
talk.
sometimes you just feel pained that people are still naive in this time that things are evolving. Rather than looking for solution, people are still dwelling in problems, which is
When
not supposed to be.
we
You
live in a
can't change.
country
You
where
can't change the way
there's
people
but
react to
exactly,
things.
you can't change
Yeah,
people.
that's it.
And
That's it. That's it.
we live in on a continent where there's freedom of speech. People can say
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they want. It's the
yeah.
way we
Definitely,
react to it that now determines.
definitely,
And it won't stop me from
definitely,
talking because the people who
definitely.
are listening. Do you
Yeah,
understand?
yeah.
So over to you. Tell me.
I think the first thing Nigerian education system needs to do is having complete and succinct student data. It is lacking in Nigerian schools.
Oh
We
Lord,
need
have
to have a succinct data for each student
Oyin is laughing because
because
she
if
knows.
there's no data, there's no how any teacher can be able to I don't know how to just explain it. There's this lack of data. You get to any school in Nigeria, ask them, the only data they have is financial data for each student. Tell us, as
Even that
this
one, they don't have it. It's not complete. Trust me, I
some
know.
some international schools does, but tell us what any medical attention these students needs,
No
what's the
data.
family like, what's the things. Let us The data is paramount because when the data is available,
Then you can
teachers can
work
be
with
able to
it.
work with it. You get what I'm trying to say? So it
So
will be
data
easier for
helped
teacher
you.
to.
Data helped you in the classroom
Yeah,
when you came here. That's number one.
definitely,
Tell me
I
what
definitely.
else helped you.
let me talk.
Okay.
I believe that some of the data, some of the data you might require, like you talked about health and all that, a lot of for some of the needs that they're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria is a very religious country, and we believe,
Yes.
so there are there's a limit to the data you can get in terms of health, right? Because even the parents themselves do not have it. And I feel like teachers on their own at the beginning of the school year, you can have like something like a form that you send out to parents to let them know. This is like a solution now for teachers who are ready to, be different. If you can have a form where you can have parents fill in if there are allergies. Some parents don't even know that their kids have allergies, right? What At least things as simple as what are your child's
Mm-hmm.
interests,
Yeah.
what are the things your child is struggling with? As a
Yeah.
parent, what are your expectations for your child
Good.
end of the school year? If there's a teacher who is willing to be different, you can create that for yourself and have it to hand out to parents at the beginning of every year. So that will give you, something
An
to.
insight.
It cannot be conclusive, honestly, because the problem is not just with the school setting, but with the system as a
It's the
whole.
Entirely.
system,
So
the
think
whole
about think
culture.
about how data is since you moved into the UK. Think about data and how everything is connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Your NI is connected
Yeah.
to this, connected to that.
Don't
Yeah.
So
use
Yeah.
UK. Use
people
Norway.
just people just do what they are supposed to do because you know that you cannot beat the system,
Yeah.
right? But back home is different. So that this thing we're talking about now is not something that schools on their own will be able to fix. So as a teacher who is forward, one thing you can do is go, as you said, have your own something, at least, no matter how little it is, to support you.
Exactly.
Just to add to what you've said, I think if we can integrate some things into our
Yes.
education system, it will
Mhm.
bring down some anomalies we've been experiencing in that particular system for
Absolutely.
years.
Oh
I don't know,
Lord.
maybe you understand what I'm trying to say.
Preach.
So
Preach.
if the school, if the education system, the Ministry of Education can make it compulsory for you to have all your students, all your children data submitted to school before they can be admitted for whatsoever thing they want to do in school, it will help a lot. But because the helm of affairs we've got, the authority are not even thinking in that direction.
No.
So it is still making it something like something ominous even for Nigerian education system,
You can't give
because
what
it will.
you have, actually.
You don't. You can't give what you
If
don't
that's
have.
going to happen, people in the hem of our affair, I think Nigeria should begin to think about actually pulling out people who have experienced and gone through these things in the classroom and know what teachers face firsthand, what students need firsthand, and put them in the hem of affair. Because most of the people who sit there, remember, sometimes it's political appointment, is
Yeah. They are not
a
intellectually inclined in that
reform.
direction.
A whole lot of reform needs to be done. If you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
a school run by an owner who is into teaching, and see one who is run by somebody
A
who's into
business personnel.
business, you can
Yeah.
see the difference.
The difference. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another thing. Like, I don't know, but we can go on and on this topic. This particular this
Yeah.
But
Recently I noticed something
yes,
which
tell me.
recently I'm really working on from here, and I think it must be inculcated in Nigeria's education system. For example, I teach science here in the UK. You don't do practical with students without considering the risk assessment.
Exactly.
I've had many cases in Nigeria before I got here where students are being hurt, armed,
yeah.
got killed because the teachers who are taking them on practicals doesn't know anything about risk assessment. I know of a student who suffered, fell on his leg, and then the leg got damaged, and the school did nothing about it, the parent did nothing about it, the government did nothing about it, because there's no risk assessment for any practical or anything you're doing in place. Here in
Hey,
UK, you can lose your
Tangilia.
DBS.
Some of the people on in the audience don't even know what risk assessment
Okay.
That's a whole life. But
I
let's
think
just that's a
I
whole
think
life segment.
I think risk assessment is just, I think that word is simple to be understood. Now, risk assessment is, calculating all the risk that is attached to that practical you were doing. For example, you can't do any practical here for students involving chemicals without using goggles. Hand gloves must be worn, because if you are
Exactly.
handling chemical, it can be poisonous, it can be skin irritating, it might be corrosive, which you have to be careful about. So all these kind of things are lacking and are killing many people in Nigeria.
Do you think that this plays into behavior management in the classroom? Knowing how to prepare your lesson with risk assessment,
See,
with engagement, with everything. Oh
if you
my
want to
God.
talk about lesson planning, it can take 5 hours to discuss that.
Oh yes, I
Trust
know.
me.
Trust me.
Five. If you want to talk about lesson planning in Nigeria and lesson planning here, sincerely, I can discuss it for 5 hours non-stop.
Yo también.
You get, you get,
I'm
you
speaking
get,
Spanish
what,
again.
you get what I'm trying to say. Because
It's like,
we can't even don't go there for money. It's something different entirely, and it's a big problem more than our economic issue in Nigeria. You get
When
what I'm
you
trying to say?
Someone said likely risks and accidents. Do you believe that having an ADHD child in your class can determine the way you
It's still
write
part
your
of it's still part
assessment?
of your risk assessment. your
Oh
your
my God,
students with learning disabilities are part of.
that is
Some
your risk
students will not stay
assessment.
in a particular position in the same spot during practical. You
No,
must plan them with your risk assessment. That's
exactly.
why teaching assistants are to be provided. So if I'm doing a practical that involves dealing with ADHD students who wouldn't stay in the same position or who could harm themselves with the chemical we are using, I need a supporting teacher that will stay beside them. Because number one, they must not be eluded for that practical because it is equity in learning.
Oh, say that again so that they can hear you in the back.
They must
I
not
was
be eluded. So
exactly.
their learning disabilities would not determine their elution from that particular practical. So
Exactly.
a TA must be standing with them, which is part of my risk assessment. So
Yes.
if I ask them, because here in UK, don't let me say UK now, my experience and CPD training, there's something we call purposeful practical.
Oh my
Purposeful
God.
practical shows students how to scaffold what they are doing. You
Yes.
scaffold it for them, so when you're doing it, they're doing the same. You're not just telling them do this. No,
Go
you're
and do
doing
this.
it, they are
No.
seeing what you're doing, and they're doing exactly the same. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you're using visualizer in that case, you might not be able to reach out to anyone who could hurt or harm themselves immediately. That's the function of the TA. So your TA names will be in your risk assessment form that you will
Straight.
submit to the department for that particular practical.
Straight.
You
So
get what I'm trying to say?
exactly. And like I said, all this plays into your behavior management because can you imagine? You've not done risk assessment. There's an ADHD child in your class. There's a child with Asperger's in your class. There's a child with autism. There's a child who is gifted and talented in your class, and you are teaching to the middle. The whole behavior management thing comes into play then because
Yeah.
you've not you've not factored all those things
do,
into
do
it.
you do you know even this behavior management thing for Nigeria, I've not said 1% of it.
Of
I've
course not.
got
I
a
know.
lot of
Don't worry,
things.
we know.
For example, we have, I will still go back to teaching pedagogy for
Yes,
behavior management.
yes, please.
You get what I'm trying to say? Now, for example, there's a custom in our profession which requires expertise and skills, which is not being encapsulated in our education system in Nigeria.
No,
For
it's not only
example,
Nigeria. Funny enough, I will be very
okay,
honest with you. I won't say the global south. I would just say south of northern Europe
okay,
because I have there's a PGC student I'm overseeing right now. She's
okay,
in Namibia, and her teaching practice is off and on because of this same thing, and that's Namibia.
hmm, hmm.
So you'll be
I,
so like
I,
the numbers in the class don't even encourage. It's not even encouraging. How would I manage if there are 20 ADHD children in my classroom? How am I going to manage that? Okay, they
I,
are secondary, they
okay.
are primary, they know they're right, but they have that learning disability. How do I work with them? There are too many. Last week I almost passed out in my chair. Oh, I came 120 children in one classroom. How?
Wow.
And
Now
some
I
of
know.
children,
Okay,
their learning disabilities haven't been named. Like some of the
No.
that's it.
some
It's
teachers
not,
don't.
some is not even diagnosed yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure only we know of something in UK we call the safeguarding rules.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, we do it here too in Spain.
It is not really in place in Nigeria.
It's
A
not
stu-
Not
existent.
in place, not really, like at all.
It doesn't exist.
a student must have this feeling of being safeguarded in a class for them to be able to be managed in the class. And a teacher too must know there's a safeguarding policy for me in place for me to be safeguarded and for students to be safeguarded. For example, in Nigeria, you believe a lesson is teacher centered.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, every learning must be student centered.
Every
And
oh,
that is why we teachers in Nigeria thinks we are at the peak of everything that happen in that particular classroom we are teaching. Meanwhile, it is student centered. Everything must go around our students' needs.
exactly. I don't think they see students as a resource in the classroom.
They talk at students for 30 minutes. You're talking at students, and you expect them
My
to be their best.
my
Like,
students
you
are
go
one of
for
my
training.
biggest resource.
Yes, that's
You
it.
know that still move back to teaching philosophy.
Yes.
Again, I was talking to someone who was going for an interview recently, and then the person told me she had been denied and rejected in many interviews and that she doesn't know what is happening. She said whenever she gets to a micro teaching, she teaches so well that all the students, were able to relate to what she's teaching. But after the interview, the school keeps saying, sorry, we can't employ you. And I told her, can you tell me how you've been teaching?
Exactly. What did you teach?
And I told her, can you please teach me? Teach me the same thing you taught in the micro teaching.
Yeah.
And I told her right in her face, just to be honest with her, I said, if I'm to be sitting as one of the SLT of the school that
I
will
would say
employ
no.
you, I will tell you no. Though you have the subject knowledge, you are intellectually sound,
The
but
pedagogy is inferior.
you don't have the pedagogy and the philosophy of how to break this information into chunks for students to understand. The focus of UK curriculum for
I saw
science,
that too.
the focus of UK curriculum is not, I'm talking about science curriculum, is not for students to become, it's not for students to understand science. No, you can go and check. It's for them to become science literate.
Exactly. To
So
understand how to think
they can
without
understand in your
inquiring.
class and not become a science literate afterwards. So if you think they understood, ask them what you've taught them yesterday, and they can't remember anymore.
No.
But if you see someone who's got teaching philosophy, they make it, just like I told Omawumi in the last video. I said, one of my training made me understood that I must be able to use live realities to teach abstract in science
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
students to be able to understand how, why, and what makes that thing exist in
Exactly.
science. You get what I'm trying to say? So
Yes.
that is
Oh
what we
my
lack
God.
in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we write notes, we read
Notes.
textbook, and then we memorize many things, which we know affect us a lot. And we get to that big stage, and then we were nothing. And then we think abroad, they are not doing up to what we are doing, and yet they are getting better results. Not because they are more inclined, not because they are more
It's
intellectually
what they do,
sound.
the
It's
applicable skills they get from it. That is it.
it's because they've got the right approach to teaching. So this behavior management, now we are diverting away from behavior management now.
No, I
You
keep
get what I'm
bringing
trying?
it back because
Yeah.
it's
So
it's like a spider. It has a lot.
it's interconnected. Yeah.
Yes.
So now bringing this into teaching, just like Onyi said, you can't be talking for 30 minutes. In my classroom, I don't talk. For example, last lesson I taught before this weekend, I was teaching them space. We were talking about planets, what is it, what is present in the solar system. And someone came to observe my class, and the students and the observer and myself end up teaching ourselves what
Yes. So
space
that's
looks
it.
like.
Everybody
So
is a
I'm not the one
resource.
telling them this is the number of planets we have in space, this is this.
No.
We are interacting. And
You're
they're
this.
asking me, sir, why do we have this? Why does Earth have one moon? Why does this have 140 moon? And then we keep explaining and keep explaining. After that, when I explain some things to them and I think I need to support that particular information with a video, I impute a video for them again.
Exactly.
While we were watching the video, I'm not playing the video in its entirety. I pause
No.
it at the middle. We
And
quickly do
talk.
a formative assessment of what we've watched,
Exactly.
what we've learned.
Quick
We talk
talking.
about it
Yeah.
again. We play the video again, come back to the conclusion, and before they leave, we discuss how that affects us.
Thank you.
You get what I'm trying to say? So, how does the solar system, what concerns me? Why am I learning about solar system? I'm
Exactly.
not in the sun.
How do
I'm
I
just on
apply
Earth.
my
How
learning?
does he apply to me? So, what each one of them are telling me, okay, I'm on Earth. I'm talking about year 8 students. I'm on Earth. We are third planet to the sun. The sun provides photosynthesis for the plant, so we could be able to, this one is talking about
I
this. This
breathe.
one is talking
Yes.
about NASA. And then I know for sure if I see them on Monday again and I ask them, so what do you still remember about solar system? They will tell me
They
for
will
photosynthesis,
remember.
and that's science literate. They
They
don't
will
just
know.
understand it to pass exam. They teach us in Nigeria to pass exam, and that's why we have past question. What key points? You just want to quickly cram it in your head. Homostasis is this. You get what I'm trying to say?
And pour
No,
it out,
we.
and then that's
Yeah,
it.
I
That's
think
why.
that here is different because your role as a teacher is that of more like a moderator.
Exactly. You're
So
moderating, you're
so
facilitating.
you have to do something. You throw in maybe open-ended questions to
Yeah, yeah.
their knowledge.
So,
And
guys, thank you. Sorry, oh, you carry on. Then I will throw my question in.
What time does the podcast end, please?
It's
in the
supposed to end
next
at,
5 or like we'll wrap it up now.
yeah.
We'll wrap it up.
Okay. No, no, no. I'm just trying to ask. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Look, you have
Yeah.
a space for next week, not next week. In fact, you have a permanent place on the
Every week,
podcast.
yes. You're
I,
part of the podcast whenever you have time to.
No, because just like we do in the classroom, just when we are discussing like this, people are picking everything that we're saying, and it's just it's I hope it's ministering to them, it's ringing a bell somewhere, because these are the people who want to come and work here. That's my biggest challenge. And my biggest challenge since I started my channel has been, how do I break it down? I've seen what happens here. I don't know. I didn't really teach over there. That's why I'm so happy that you're here.
okay.
But how do I show them over there what we have over here? I don't want them to get the job and then start faltering on the job, because that doesn't speak well for where we are from. They will tie everyone with the same brush. But how do I break it down and show them the window to say, look, this is what happens here. Now I need you to start practicing over there. You will not get it 100%, but if you start implementing some of these things gradually, then when you come here, what you are doing is consolidating on what you've practiced. We've done CPDs, we've done a lot. I do a lot of talking on my WhatsApp group, which I'm going to add you to, by the way. But the crux of the matter is this: how do we get them to start implementing these things? They have
Okay.
120 children in one class. When I heard, I almost passed out. I
120.
was
Why?
like,
That's too
how?
large.
Where do I
That's too
start my
large.
differentiation from? Can you imagine having 120 children in class here?
No,
Behavior
that's too
management,
much.
what are we talking? The
You
teacher, they
can't.
will
You can't
take the
even
teacher
manage
up.
the behavior.
They
I don't
will
think you'll
take
be
the
able
teacher
to
over and
manage
leave
it.
the teacher in the toilet, and with dry bread, if they can't save, and throw the apple, they will put apple in the teacher's mouth and say, you stay there first. So how do we get all these people to understand, guys, this is what you're coming to meet here. We need more black teachers in the profession because of the children. We need representation in the classroom because there's only 1.1% of black teachers around the world. We need to up that number. So how do we do it? You can't keep applying for them to tell you, unfortunately. You can't be going for micro teach for them to tell you, no, sorry. You have to know what to give so that when you go for those interviews, you are
You know
taken.
what to say. As regards that, I think if that is your objectives and your mission,
Yes.
I think, see, I've met a lot of Africans here. And then, to me, I'm sorry if I'm saying this live, a lot of us are naive about the conduct of this profession.
Yes.
There's a conduct for this particular profession. And if I have the opportunity, there should be a day we talk about the conduct.
Oh, we talk about different
You,
topics every week.
you
Trust
get
me.
what I'm trying to say? There's a
Yeah.
conduct in this profession which you don't mess with. If you mess with it, sometimes you might be lucky, you break through, and sometimes it might haunt you.
Oh, yes.
Because if you don't understand the conduct, you will just be, trying to disturb yourself around something that is not worthwhile.
Yes.
So if anybody is coming from that kind of a background, which is from Africa, coming to somewhere like this, we need to make them understand what the conduct looks like, so they
Which is
can
why
know,
we're here.
yeah, so they can know the pros and the cons of any actions being done. And a lot of people just think it's like Nigeria, where you apply and you continue to apply and continue to apply and continue to apply, and you keep getting rejected. It doesn't work that way.
Very
There are some
demoralizing.
things you need to do. For example, we need to talk to people about, even if you are invited for an interview, there's a place of providing some things in your lesson plan for that interview. You
Yes.
know, I've been in many interviews for many science teachers in my school because of the position I hold, and I see some people's PowerPoint and their teaching material coming to the interview. It's not succinct enough.
So
There are
since
some.
it's not up to standard, so
I
since
wouldn't want to use that language. You
you've
get
reached
what I'm trying.
standard and
I
it's
wouldn't. I wouldn't want to
capable.
just. So there are some things, and during interviews, there are some things you say. There are some things they want to hear. That just like I told Omowumi, you might attend interview and they are laughing and they are shaking hand. Meanwhile,
But
you
at
are
the end of
saying
the day,
nonsense,
yes,
pure rubbish.
because
You get
they're
what I'm
very
trying to say?
polite. They're
So
not.
there are some, yeah. It's one of the job ethics. They don't tell you, they don't show to you that you are saying rubbish. It's
No,
the part of the job ethics. You get what I'm trying to say? So
yeah,
we need to let our people know these procedures to getting the job, then letting them know what do you do after getting the job. And after
exactly.
that,
When you
what do
have
you
to say,
do what do
Yeah,
you do after you've gotten the job to get you permanently in the job?
we
So,
we we had we've had a couple of videos where we talked about interview
oh,
questions. I'll try to.
okay, okay,
And
so
okay.
each week we
our
try.
next topic for next week is, oh, so you've gotten the job, what next? How do you prepare
Oh,
for
okay,
your first
okay.
couple of months
Yeah.
of school and what to expect on? Yeah, so we always brainstorm topics in our cells
Oh,
with
okay,
three of
okay,
us.
okay,
That's why
okay.
we're asking you to, hop on
Oh,
and let's do this together.
Let's help because you will cover the permanent secondary. I can cover permanent or I can cover international. I don't mind. I will cover
okay.
international. Oyin covers the American side of things, and Momi covers the UK
Sorry,
side
are
of
you
things.
in America now?
No,
No,
no, no. I I started my career as in an American international school in
Oh,
Nigeria.
okay.
Yes,
Oh,
so
okay. Is it the one in Abuja?
yes,
yes,
Oh, okay.
you're not supposed to.
Sorry, okay.
You're not
Okay.
supposed to.
let
GDPR,
let's stop
data
there, please.
protection.
I just stop my mouth, please. Let's stop there. So what I've taken home from this whole discussion is, I think for classroom management, it's almost the same thing for the how do I call it? The pedagogy is the same thing for all across all the classes, but it's for
Okay.
you to be able to tweak it to meet your own students. That's for your own grade level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the part where, because I was taking notes when you were talking, we
Yeah, I
do
saw
Oh,
you.
things like
okay.
I saw you were
building
writing it down.
relationship, even if it's a nursery class you're teaching, you
Yeah.
need to build relationship. Then that's why at the beginning of the school, people don't start out teaching as soon as school
No.
resumes. You have things like maybe first day of school, you have icebreakers. That's
Yes. Team
games and
building.
stuff,
Yeah.
team building activity to kind of ease up things, get students even comfortable with themselves. Because I
And
mean, some
you
kids are just
comfortable
being
with
in the same
you.
class for the first time, and then
Yeah.
even with you, because it's about building relation. You can't be teaching strangers. Like strangers
Yeah.
will not want to learn from you. So it's more like your family. It's like a small family you have.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
people that you're supposed to nurture. So you need to build that relationship with them. First couple of weeks, you're doing activities, team building activities, not teaching anything. Sometimes it takes months because you need to build that,
Reinforce
like,
constantly saying it over and
yes,
over.
before that learning begins to take place. Trust takes time. Some kids, they get into the routine quickly and ease up faster than some other kids. Like some
Yeah.
kids, you really need to, it's a continuous thing. And
Yeah.
um as you build that relationship, you prove to them that they can trust you, right?
Yes.
Trust
By
is not something
modeling
that
behavior
comes by
too.
people. Yes, you prove to them
Exactly.
that they can trust you, and then it begins to happen. You also need to know your students, their interests. Like there's something like, for early years, we do inquiry-based learning a lot. That is learning
Okay.
around children's interests. Learning has to
Exactly.
Okay.
be fun and engaging. Kids are like hands-on, participating.
Yeah.
And I know that learning, like when we're taught, learning goes through different stages. When you
Yeah.
was talking about science, I realized that if learning doesn't get to that residual stage is the highest stage of learning, where
Mm-hmm.
give out what you've been given. Because I
Yeah.
know back then when I was learning computer, I went to computer school when I was after secondary school. I kept asking my teacher, what will I use this for? They were teaching me Excel,
Mm.
but I didn't know how do I
What to
apply this.
use it for? Where do you apply it to? Yeah.
Sorry to bust your bubble. I did apply geophysics back in school. Like that's what I
Yeah.
studied.
Wow.
I did
Wow.
microbiology.
Coming here,
Same here.
Jay has tried,
Microbiology.
Jay has tried to
Oh,
convince me. Jay has tried to convince me a couple of times to teach physics. It's not like I don't know. I understand I know the content, but I understand now that there's a difference between content knowledge and being able to, those basic skills you need to impact the
Yeah.
knowledge. So back in
Yeah.
school,
wow.
things were thrown at us. I got good grades, I passed, but then am I able to give that knowledge to somebody in such a way that they can give it back to me? That's what the question I need to answer. So very important.
You know,
Then
before you continue, sorry, it's two different things we need to understand as a Nigerian, and any school in Nigeria or anywhere they are watching this. The fact that someone is intellectually sound doesn't mean they will be a great teacher of what they've been taught and
exactly.
No.
what they've excelled in. You know, that's why we have many frustrated first class teachers in
Yes,
Nigerian schools
I'm
because
PhD holders.
they graduated with first class. They thought they will be a good teacher. Meanwhile, if you are not trained in that particular profession, if you haven't got the expertise and the skills needed to
Or the
break informations
disposition.
into chunks, it is someone with tutu will teach better
Better.
if the person has got the expertise and the skills needed to teach than someone who has got first class in that particular subject.
I have
Yeah.
seen
Sorry to
people
cut you
with
short.
third class teach amazingly well. They are fantastic because they were one of maybe they struggled through school, so they know how to they know what it means to struggle, and so do you understand? Meanwhile,
Yeah.
first class it comes to them naturally, so they just feel what can't you? Do you understand? So I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
It's not
And then another problem, see, if you
Yeah.
don't teaching, to me, teaching is a call. You get what I'm trying to say?
yeah,
It
but
is
me.
not something, it is not something you just think because that's why we have many frustrated teachers. They
Yeah.
haven't got any other option. So that was the only thing available for them to do. When I was going for my degree, I told my parents I want to be a teacher. And you know how Nigerian parents behave
They'll
when they
say
hear
no.
something of a sort.
What?
Because
No.
of my, intellectual capacity, they wanted me to be a medical doctor.
Of
You
course.
get what I'm trying to say? So they were trying to tell me, why would you have this such a good score in JAM and tell us you want to become a teacher? You get what I'm trying to say? So it was a problem at the beginning, but I knew what I wanted. I told them I'll become an excellent teacher that you'll be proud of, better than any doctors you will ever produce, better than any lawyer or engineer you ever produce. My father, we had, this brouhaha at the first, but eventually he knows. It seems as if, because I've started teaching since when I was in secondary school.
Oh wow.
Since when I was in secondary school.
So you
So,
had the
you know,
disposition.
yeah. So to me, it is something I know I'm created for. I've never done any other job in my life. I've never gone into any other profession other than teaching. So sometimes when it is something you love, getting materials and every resources around it to foster, to propel and to develop you in that particular profession would not be something that will be, something
Hard.
frustrating to you,
Yeah.
because it is something you love doing. You will want to look for how to improve yourself in it per time. I've worked in schools where I've seen people who doesn't want to see blacks, who doesn't want to see new person, but because I know they've got something upstairs I needed. So while they threw insult at me, I
You
don't
move
care
like
about it. I'm still creating that relationship because I want to get from them. I have so many mentors that I know naturally I shouldn't walk up to, but because of what they've got here, and they keep improving me part time in my expertise, in my profession. So if it is someone who doesn't find it as a call, or someone who doesn't have passion about it, they would have gotten tired and just be, teaching the students with their own frustrations, with their
yeah.
own, dealings, life dealings, and everything.
Safeguarding risk in the
I'm,
class.
I'm not I'm not saying that's totally correct, but I just think that is the way it should be.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
for cutting you short.
Your pedagogical skills is actually what sets you apart from
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
first class, second class, or how you're
yeah,
able to really deliver,
yeah,
apply
yeah,
different skills. And that's where flexibility and adaptability comes in, because you might plan your lesson and it doesn't, you realize that that lesson you planned might not really work for that particular day. And
yeah,
being able to think outside the box too. And I think with experience over the years, as you build experience, you begin to become more confident, to
Yes.
explore and try out things. And then some things also will come to you like immediately, impulsively, if you've had that experience for a very long time. And just to say that if you teach younger kids, I know Gideon said timeout. Don't send a child on timeout when you not to somewhere where you cannot see them.
See.
One.
Yeah.
Number two, if you're sending a little child outside the room, that person has to be accompanied by a teaching assistant, by another
Even
adult.
the older children,
Yeah, and
you
there's
have
this.
to keep your eye on them all the
For
time.
other children, you have TAs inside. You can't leave them alone. Yeah.
Most times, there's this thing with a child does something and you kick them out of the class, right? You need to be aware that that child knows why they are out of the class, because that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I think the child should know that they've done something, and then maybe someone else walks up to that child, oh, why are you outside? And the child says, I don't know, right? So you have to have a conversation afterwards. It's
Yeah.
not just kick the child out. You need to let the child know why you're outside, and okay, ask questions like what could you have done better?
Better. Yeah.
Let the child tell you, because they know, even though they're acting like they don't know. Okay, so this is what you did.
Reflection. Yeah.
Did you do this? Yeah. So that's where
A
they
reconciliation form.
Yes.
have done better. Instead of you telling them next time you should do this, you
No.
ask them. So this is what you did. Okay, so how can we fix this problem? What do you think we
Yeah.
should do? And what could you have done better? So the child is giving you the answers by themselves. So you can hold them to that, because
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah.
told you they're supposed to be doing it. And then
Yeah.
reflection, like Jay just said, reflection is not just for teachers alone.
I know.
I
It's
have this
everybody.
custom, yeah, I have this custom that even for my pre-kindergarten kids, we used to do a reflection. But our reflection was like simple, quick and easy in form of pictures. Smiley face, straight face, sad face. So I read out the question. How you did within
Yeah.
this last
I use
week?
thumbs up,
You see
thumbs in
them,
the
they're really,
middle,
and then
thumbs
yes,
down.
exactly. And I praise them for being honest with their reflection.
Yeah.
So we take that home to mom and dad, so the parents can also have a conversation with them. So what were the things you think you did that you didn't do well? So what would you be doing next time? So reflection is not only at the end of the year, it can be a weekly reflection.
As it
It can,
happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's important that kids are
You guys are
already.
really trying. You guys, dealing with kids is another grace entirely. You kudos to you guys.
Do you know something I do sometimes? When a child has been, especially if it's a child who has been really difficult, who has had a really difficult term, the child does something good. The way I would praise that
Oh,
one
blow
thing
it up.
that child has done,
You
I will
you you
even
you
write a
you
note.
celebrate their little wins.
Yes, I write a
Celebrate
note.
little wins. Yeah.
I write a note home. Ask me what I've done to make my teacher very happy today. So I'm not the one
Wow.
telling the parents. So
Wow.
first of all, the parent says, "Ah, you've made your teacher happy. Well, that's really nice." Then they ask the child, and then the child will be like,
Wow.
"Ah, you will see the chest will now come out." Yes, I handled my teacher today. I made her very happy. Hey, sit down. Let me tell you. And the next day, the child comes into school. You will see the child will be doing that same thing over and
Yes,
Yeah.
over because
yes.
now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, notice me. I'm doing it again. So I
Positive
can write
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I said. You need to reflect yourself into their being. Into their being. Someone they always want to see. Sometimes when I take my sick leave, anytime I'm back to school, they'll tell me, "Sir,
They will
why are you not
run.
in
Yeah,
school?"
yeah, yeah. They will
You
ask
get
of
what I'm
you.
trying to say?
Yeah.
So it's because you've replicated your being into them. So they always want to talk to you. In fact, some things that you don't need to know, they want to tell you.
Yes, but that's
So
it. You've built that relationship, and once you build that relationship, do you know when we said behavior management, a lot of people came on today, maybe thinking, "Oh, we're going to show them how we hammer the children down because children on this side, they're very no,
no, no,
love the child,
no,
love the child, build
no,
the relationship with the child,
Love
no.
understand
conquer,
the
right?
You
child."
don't demoralize them because some
No,
teachers demoralize students.
oh
Trust
yes,
me.
even here,
That's
it's
why
happening.
in my science lesson, for example, if I ask you a question and you said something that is incorrect, I don't tell you no.
No,
You get what I'm trying to say? So
I
I don't say no, that's
that's
wrong.
wrong.
Mm-mm.
Although, sit
No,
down.
you don't demoralize the students. There's a better way of doing things. And then, for example, let me say, okay, how do you get into this live stream? And you tell me a wrong answer. the first thing I do is to scaffold the correct answer for you to speak it out. So I tell you, okay, let's do it this way. Guys, let's listen to him. Let's say, for example, it's Oyi. I say, guys, let's listen to Oyi. Oyi is about to get this correctly now. And then I start teaching you, start explaining, not teaching now, start explaining, scaffolding it. Okay, when you pick up your phone, how did you get on the stream live?
Like,
Say,
Yes.
okay, I opened the app, I did this. So what did you now do? I did this. What did you now press? I did this. And that's it. Got it.
Fantastic.
You get what I'm trying to say?
You
So
win.
I've not said no,
No,
and
you
I've not
win
said
on the
yes
negative thing.
when she said the wrong thing, but I've tried to help. And then the other students, I can now, there's something we call re-echoing. Can I say, okay, Jay, can you re-echo what Onyi just said,
Yes.
just to show that every other person in the classroom is following what we are doing? So it's not just a two-man show, everyone is there. So a random call will make me understand, okay, formatively, everyone is on the same page for this particular lesson.
as it's talking, something I was taught back then in one of our trainings is just re-echoing. But I'm trying to get the word. So instead of using negative, like don't, like,
Okay.
like instead of saying
Positive
stop running,
reinforcement.
positive
Yeah.
reinforcement. Instead of saying stop running, you say walk or walking, right? So instead of saying no, you didn't get it right, you could say, oh, you're close, and then maybe give
Yeah,
clue something. So the child
that's
is
it. Yeah.
With
Yeah.
a
interested in
can do
going on.
attitude,
Yeah.
I can do
Yes,
this.
but if you just say no, that child just shuts down. No, I can't do it. You
And
didn't get
then
to
whenever you are doing that, you are even increasing their ability to think.
think. Yes,
Exactly.
Yeah, you are increasing their ability to think. So when they have that ability to think, it increases their memory. In science, there's a span of memory. So when you think, the more it increases your span of memory. And then when you continue to do that, you become someone who can stand on yourself and think about a solution to a particular problem.
Exactly.
So not that you are demoralized because you have this fear of always getting things wrong. But
yeah,
you know, okay, even if I don't get it correctly, personally, I can think just like what I do when I was in the school. I can think and bring up chunks from the beginning, create it and make it, join it at the peak to get what that solution to that particular problem is.
yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of
Yeah,
think time, we they had to cancel timed tests at my school at some point
Yeah.
because we started talking about think time. Some kids take a longer time to process information than others. It's just natural.
definitely,
So as
definitely,
teachers, also be aware that when you ask questions, give children time to process the information.
definitely. Yeah,
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 response.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a thing actually.
It's very important. What you just said now is very important because that's why formative assessment is key. You get what I'm trying to say? For some schools, there are some policies you will have. Okay, everyone, show me your mini whiteboard on 1, 3, 2, and 1. The 3, 2, and 1, you stretching the time frame by which you're giving them the time to process what you've asked them. So while you are asking them you've got loads of seconds for students. While you are saying 3, some students had written all the answers you asked them. While the 3, 2, 1, some students will take time to relate to what you've asked, and so
Yes.
it will take the time for them to write it down. So that's why your teaching must suit every learners with different
In the
abilities.
classroom.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think we said that
it's
last
it
week.
must suit every learners with different abilities. So that is why it is not people who are intellectually sound in your class that will benefit of everything you've taught them alone in your class.
Yeah.
Others must also benefit from it, and they must be able to learn. And that's why equity is one of the major thing, part of the curriculum here in the UK. Everyone must be on the same balanced pace.
Yeah, that's correct actually.
So that's why my class is always anchored on pace and purpose. So we are
Yes.
moving with pace, but there's a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pace and purpose. So I wouldn't want us to, stretch that again because I know Onyi has got many things to say. So we can just continue on that note.
Know your
Yeah,
students. That's my big, like, what you should take home from today's conversation. You need to know your students. Very, very important. You cannot be differentiating instruction or bringing the learning down to their individual needs if you don't know their needs. You have to know their needs, know them to be able to get through to them. And then
Exactly.
be ready to, be empathic. Empathy is a key skill that every teacher should have. Patient
Eh,
empathy.
everybody,
And then
everybody.
you must be fair as a teacher. You must be
Oh
fair.
my goodness, because the children can see. I think we
You
said it
must be
last week
fair.
where we said if you
Because
keep
some,
calling one child, the children
yeah,
can they can see
you
what's that?
must be fair.
Yeah.
That's why, some teachers that to me, our profession doesn't work on emotion.
Well,
You
there's a
show
bit of emotion. There's a bit of emotion where you
it
bond.
doesn't work primarily on emotion.
No, where
You
you
get what I'm
bond
trying to
with
say?
them. They are,
You don't think because these students has got learning disability, you are giving, you know, you're losing boundaries, and you're trying to be unfair with others because of this particular student disability. No, it doesn't work that way.
the rule is the
Every
rule.
You
student,
adjust the expectation for that child, right?
so
Eh,
every student must be supported and be treated fairly. Every,
yes.
irrespective of learning abilities. They must be treated equally and fairly, and they must be supported, all supported. I can see you showing us wristwatch. I'm sorry, I know I'm part of those who had caused this podcast to be elongated. As a matter of fact, I've got a video call coming in because I've got different podcasts to be on today, and
All
as
right.
part of it, moreover, I've got a match to watch. So I'm just getting engrossed in our conversation that I'm
It's
liking and
it
liking
is
it.
engaging. It
But
is engaging.
Someone is asking
I,
for your YouTube channel. That's a pointer
Yeah.
that you should start one.
I was just going through
Yeah, because
all the
you just
comments,
hit that
seeing the
record
questions.
button. Once you know something that you feel people around you do are not at par with you, it means you
okay.
have something. So hit that record button and get onto it. Yes, please.
Or concerning the YouTube channel, I don't have one, and I told Omomi the reason why. I wouldn't want to have a YouTube channel now because I'm a very busy person. You know, academically, professionally, spiritually. And before I left Nigeria, I used to be a consultant to many international schools. That's why I asked, is it the school you mentioned? Is it the one in Abuja? And then I'm a life coach, like a career coach too. And I know some of the people God had, helped me to, speak to. Some people God is still attaching and bringing close to me. If I start one now, they will be calling for regular content. And I haven't got that grace you guys have got.
Yes. So, but we'll
I
add you
can't
to
I
the
can't I
WhatsApp
can't
group.
supply the demand. So I wouldn't want to
We'll
start what I won't finish.
finish.
You get
No,
what I mean?
that's good. That's you being reflective.
Yeah.
But I will beg you, we'll add you to the WhatsApp group. So for anyone who
Okay.
wants to get in contact with him, we'll
Okay.
add him to the WhatsApp platform. Please don't bother him too much. He will
Exactly. I
answer the
want to do that.
questions, but please just be mindful of the fact that he just said now he's a very busy person. He will dip in and dip out when we have questions. But don't DM me, don't DM him the way you DM.
Please don't.
Don't DM him the way
I'm
you
so,
DM everybody else.
uh,
Oh my lord.
number one, I'm married. Please
Ah,
don't.
please
And
don't.
number two, I'm busy. So it might seem as if it's a pride, but no. I might not, except we have an appointment. I'm not saying I won't respond to some DM, but you can book an appointment. We have an appointment, and then I will be able to relate with that. But
No,
for
there's a
random
platform.
DMs,
There's a
but for
platform. You can respond on the platform
aha,
before
but I might not be able
Madam.
to respond to random DMs. I'm so
So
sorry. I'm so
on the
sorry.
platform, ask your question on the WhatsApp platform. And if you're not on the platform, this is a chance for you to send an email with your CV so we can go through your CV and know if what to do to put you on your journey to teaching abroad. If you are here, thank you for coming here today. For anybody who hasn't watched this, because I know a lot of people tell me that, oh, I was busy, I couldn't watch the. Please, if you know them, please just send them messages and tell them that they need to please watch this because it will help them. And if you have any other questions to ask, please just leave it in the comments after this live has ended. We have to release these people so that they can go
Thank
to
you.
their busy lives.
Thank you.
And yeah, we shall see you in
Thank you.
next one. Have a
All right.
wonderful evening, guys.
Before
Do
you
you want
go,
to add?
I'm gonna have a private discussion with you.
Okay.
Probably, maybe, yeah. So I would like to have something like that with you. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and
Thank you
thank you
so
for the
much.
privilege. Bye.
Just stay on, and then when we
Okay.
end the live, we will carry on with our discussion. Thank you so much,
Okay.
guys, and we'll see you
Okay.
next week. Or you give them the sign. Is it working? Yes,
Bye.
please. Bye, everyone, and thank you for being here today.
Bye.
Bye.